Mortgages is what we're going to start with today. Okay, and a mortgage is really a specific type of installment loan. Okay, and if you don't know what that is, it's a loan that you pay off most likely with monthly payments. Like if you buy a car, that's usually an installment loan. Not too many places will take weekly payments, but typically it's monthly payments. Okay, a mortgage is specifically a long-term installment loan for your house. Okay, and these are things that you have to know, you guys, as you guys get older. There are two kinds of mortgages. There's something called a fixed rate mortgage, which is, if you listen carefully, you're going to probably think that's the best option, and I hope you do. Then there's the variable rate mortgage, also known as an adjustable rate mortgage, abbreviated as an ARM, A-R-M. Okay? I would suggest staying away from these. Typically what they do is this. They'll say, hey, we'll give you a loan, and check out your first few years of monthly payments. It's only like $800. And everybody's like, oh, that's pretty good. But then what they do is start increasing the interest rate on you. So now your monthly payments start to go up. Okay? And so that's not a good thing, because if it's an adjustable rate mortgage, they can lower it, they can raise it, they can do whatever the heck they want, and you have to pay it. Does that make sense? It's also the same thing, like if you ever get loans for college, there are some loans that are adjustable rates when you pay them back. You don't want those. You want a fixed rate. This guarantees that you're not going to have to pay any extra money. You're just going to pay that one rate for the lifetime of the loan. Okay? A down payment is a portion of the sale price of the home that the buyer pays to the seller initially. So yeah, usually in order to get a loan, most of the time you need to have some sort of down payment. Okay, usually it's pretty hard to get a loan without putting any money down. They want you to at least invest a little bit in what you're purchasing before you get a loan. One other thing two more things before we actually start calculating some things. A point is a one-time charge that is equal to 1% of the loan amount. So one-time charge that's equal to 1% of the loan amount. Okay. This is it depends on who the mortgage provider is. Sometimes you do have to pay a couple of points as a fee when you sign all your paperwork. Other times you won't have to, because a lot of the interest rates now are a little bit lower than they used to be. But so if you ever hear that you have to pay a point or 2 points, that's really what they're saying is if your loan is $100,000, you take 100%. You take 1% of the 100K, and then you got to pay that at one point. Okay. An escrow account. Okay, is an account used by a lender to pay real estate taxes, and insurance. Okay, so for example, the mortgage I have is through my bank, which is Chase Bank. Okay, any of you have Chase as a bank? Yeah. Okay. So in addition to having a checking account at Chase, I have a savings account, and there's also something called an escrow account. Okay, since they run my mortgage, every time I make a mortgage payment, a small little portion of that payment every month goes into what they call an escrow account. And so this account starts to grow. So it kind of goes down, comes up, goes down, and comes up. And what they use this account for is to pay your taxes for you, for real estate taxes. They'll take care of that for you, and to pay your house insurance. Okay, so it's kind of nice in the sense that you don't have to worry about it, but that's what an escrow account is for. So you're still paying for it. You're just not dealing with paying these directly. That is done for you. Okay, are there any questions before we actually start calculating some things here? Okay, get your calculators out because we're going to need them. Let's go ahead and read example 1. All right. First, what's the formula for compound interest? What was that? A equal to P. That's for simple interest. For compound, it's R over N to the NT. Okay. So let's go ahead and use this formula. And now let's figure out, you guys are going to see just how bad these can be. A typical 30-year mortgage for 4.5%. And here's the amount of the loan. This does not mean that the house is $250,000. It might be if you actually got a loan and you didn't put any money down, but this is probably like maybe somebody bought a house for, I don't know, let's say $300,000. They had $50,000 they put down. This is how much they have left to get a loan for. Does that make sense? So I don't want you to think that this is the house value. This is just what you're getting a loan for. But let's go ahead and calculate that. So if this is how much money is going to get compounded monthly, you guys see where I'm getting these values from? 4.5% is 0.045. Monthly is 12. N is 12, and T is 30. Okay? Bless you. So let's calculate this. What does this turn out to be? Bless you. $961,924.51. That is correct. This is crazy. I want you to think about this. $250,000 loan. Now you're set up to pay almost $1 million on that. Not $9 million, $961,000. Okay? That's a lot of interest. In fact, mortgages typically are mostly just interest that you're paying because it's such a large amount of money, okay? So always, always, always try to save up as much money as you can so that you can lower the loan amount, number one. Number two, this is something you'll see later when we start calculating these things, but just because let's say your mortgage is $1,000, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to pay. That's the minimum. So if you have extra money for every month and your mortgage is $1,000, but you can afford to pay $1,500 or $1,700, you can pay extra to start lowering the principal, and then this all gets recalculated, and you end up paying less than this amount. Okay? But this is what it would be like if you just paid. We haven't figured that part out yet, but this is what it would be total over the lifetime of the loan if you only pay the monthly payment at a minimum. Okay? So now let's figure out what the monthly payment's going to look like. Okay? So, calculated, it's kind of how we figured out annuities, you know, the problems that you guys worked on in class yesterday. The formulas for annuities, we had P, which typically represented a deposit amount. Right now, we're going to interpret this as a payment, monthly payment. And we still have the 1 plus R over N to the NT minus 1 over R over N. Okay? So, using this formula, same interest rate, same number of compounding periods, same number of years, let's figure out what this needs to be to pay off this $961,924.51. So we set that equal to A. We're looking for the monthly payment P. And let's just plug everything in. This should look familiar. This is exactly what you guys were doing yesterday, right? 1 plus 0.045 over 12 to the, I wrote N, but I meant 12, times 30 minus 1. And then that's all divided by 0.045 over 12. I think the method that we encouraged was type all of this in the calculator first, right? And figure out what that is. So let's do that. So if you type all this stuff in there, what do we get? You got 759 point. I mean, I know you're rounding. Here's what I would recommend you do. On paper, you can write a rounded answer if you want, but please do not use a rounded answer when you're calculating things. So use all those decimals. Okay, so what it should look like is so this is the amount that we're talking about, right? Take whatever steps you're doing. By the way, what's the last step I have to do here? Divide by that amount, right? So we're dividing both sides by that amount. Okay, and so I would actually type in 961,924.51 divided by, and you do one of two things. You either go up and highlight so that it uses all of those values, or if you don't have that option, if you press second and then the minus button, which says ANS right above it, so that you get this little answer feature to pop up, it automatically uses the previous answer. Okay? And so either way, here's what we're getting. We're getting that P is 1266.71. Okay? And so this is the monthly payment on the mortgage. Okay? However, and you know, this is not bad if you think about it, but this is usually not everything you're paying, because in addition to this amount for your loan, you have to put a little bit of money into an escrow account every month. Okay? And if you have mortgage insurance, which might happen at the beginning of the loan, this might end up being more like $1,600, $1,700 every month that you're paying. Okay? But for now, this is what you need to pay just for the loan itself. Any questions on that? Okay. So to figure out this formula, which is kind of formatted funny at the bottom here, here's where it's going to come from though. So if you think about the two things that we did, we took P1 plus R over N to the NT. This calculated the value of the loan, future value or total value of the loan. And then we set that amount, that 961,000, which came from this formula, we set that equal to our annuity formula, which was P. I'm going to call that PMT now for payment because we're using a different interpretation for it. And then you got 1 plus R over N to the NT minus 1 all over R over N. Okay. And so if you isolate this, we're going to not show all the steps here, but if you multiply this over and then divide by this factor, okay, you're going to get the formula, which is monthly payment equals P times R over N. And then you have 1 minus the quantity 1 plus R over N to the negative NT. Okay, so to calculate a monthly payment, and this is not just for houses, this is not just for mortgages. If you get a loan for a car, which could be a 3-year, a 4-year, or a 5-year loan, man, sometimes they're even offering you like 6-year loans now. Have you guys seen those commercials? They're like 0% APR for 72 months. Oh. That's a great deal because 0% APR means that you're not paying interest. You're just paying the value of the car that you agree to, and of course they're going to try to upsell it so that they make more money, but you're just paying that without interest on it over 72 months, which is great. But you have to qualify for that. In order to qualify for something like that, you have to have really good credit. Okay, so for example, my first car when I graduated from college, not from high school, I didn't have my own car. When I graduated from college, okay, I was kind of dumb. I'll be the first one to tell you this. I had a job, and I had money coming in. I had absolutely no money saved up, and I'm like, I'm going to go get this Nissan Maxima 6-speed, brand new. It was the coolest car. I loved that thing. But you know how much my monthly payments were? Like $667. Okay. A month. Okay, which is a lot. But at the time, and the only reason I got away with that was because I lived with roommates. So I didn't have to pay $1,300, $1,400 just for rent on my own. It was split, so it was like $300 a month. So I had extra money. I was like, oh, why not? I can afford this. But in retrospect, I probably should have saved up some money first. So lesson learned. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's go ahead and, how much time do we have?
We got 7 minutes.
That's a good place to stop. So